All right, so we're gonna shoot this stupid video again. Had a perfect video yesterday, and then the freaking computer crashed as soon as I quit recording and deleted the file. So isn't that great? Yay! Now there's two pieces to this video. The second piece is actually saved, so this may seem a little more disjointed than whatever. I'm gonna try to make it basically exactly the same. So stay tuned. Here we have the switch. It's on the dashboard. I'll show it to you momentarily. Okay. Get the camera fired up here so I can show you some pictures of what's going on, of course. Sup? That is not what I wanted to see. Good Lord. All right, here we go. Yeah. So notice that you're going to have power coming in from, now that's CB14. That means circuit breaker 14. Okay. It's going to come up here into this switch. Now notice that these two are connected to one another. So when I put in the down position, whoop, over to here, it's going to swing over to here. That's going to obviously go to ground. You see that? You're going to go down through this other switch that's in the tailgate, which doesn't, it just passes through it, through the motor, through this tailgate ajar latch switch. So if the tailgate is ajar, that switch opens up and doesn't let you send power through. Back up to here. Now again, when we're in the up position, it would have come up around here, down through power. It actually would have gone the other way, but you get the picture. I swing it the other way, this guy's going to be connected to ground, and this guy's going to be connected to power. The only difference is which way is the power flowing. That's it. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and use this switch. This was the original 1990 switch, or wiring diagram. I'm going to go ahead and use it because, well, I can. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop this bottom cover off of my dashboard here, and then I'm going to show you the switch. Here we go. Hey, Q. Hey, there's the switch, Mr. Groom. That's right. And on the back of it, right there, you can see the wires in there. Excellent. How many are there? Well, go look at your diagram again. There's uno, dos, tres, five. There's 5 wires there. 5 wires. Beautiful. Now, again, that's what's happening behind here. Cool. Mr. Groom, would you immediately go to the switch? Actually, I'm glad you asked. No, I probably wouldn't immediately go to the switch. What I'd probably do is come down here to the fuse panel. Now, since I just shot this yesterday, I know what I'm doing, so whatever, but that's circuit breaker 14. This one right here is. And then this guy here is circuit breaker 12. Now, let me just show you that in your picture here. See, 12 is where you would send power if you're going to run it with the key that's in the back door. So you can stick a key in, turn it to the right or left, or raises the thing up and down. That switch always breaks on these things. It was broken when I got it. Can't buy them. You could probably put in some rig up, some other kind. Don't feel like it. Don't care. Okay. I only want the one on my dash to work. Okay. So that's circuit breaker 14. So you're like, well, how do you test a circuit breaker, Mr. Groom? That's a good question. Well, you can't really. You can't. So I'm going to pull it out real quick. And I'm going to show you one kind of way you can test it. But what I find helpful on these two oftentimes is to grab a fuse. It's the same size, or they'll handle that kind of load. There you go. Ooh, I'm going to set it over yonder. And I'm going to take my ohm meter. I'm going to set it on ohms. The idea being is, do I have a path through the thing? Okay. So this one has these tiny little alligator clips, which is pretty cute. And voila, we have, 1 ohm, which is great. Okay. Almost no resistance, which means it should be working. Now, do you always trust that necessarily? Nah, not always. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace it with a 30 amp fuse for right now. Okay. Why are you doing that, Mr. Groom? Why are you doing that? Freaking video died yesterday, right after I got it done. So I got to reshoot this morning. It's going faster. So why are you doing that, Mr. Groom? Well, personally, I like to know, I know that this fuse is good. So if there's any issues with the circuit breaker, perhaps, remember we talked about before, if there was a mine collapse, right, and there was only a little shaft of light, can air get through? Yes. Is there a quote-unquote a connection to the outside world? Yes, there is. Okay. Is it enough to shove like 100 miners through in the next 20 minutes? No, it ain't going to happen. So recall that just because there's a connection where there's very little resistance, there is very little resistance, right? We can't necessarily push enough current through there to get the job done. Okay, so I'm going to use a fuse, and I'm going to do it that way. Now, before I do that, though, I am going to go down there and look to make sure that I have power actually at the fuse. So come with me in a jiffy. Now, when you think about this, okay, when I think about this, I think to myself, you know, Mr. Groom, I said to myself, is this going to be a keyed circuit or is this going to be a, oh, fart. Is this going to be keyed hot or is this going to be a situation where we are hot all the time? I don't know. There's a light. Now, Mr. Grimm, it's only hot on one side. Well, duh. How do I know it's only hot on one side, Mr. Grimm? Well, think about this, friends. If it was hot on both sides, that would be weird, wouldn't it? No current would flow, so it's only hot on one side. And look at that. Dude, she's dead. Wait, you turned the key off. That's right. So it's a keyed hot circuit. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and put that fuse in. And if I don't hear it pop right away when I turn the key on, if I don't hear it pop right away when I turn the key on, okay, I'm going to feel good about my life. If it pops right away, like it blows out right away, oops, what would that suggest to me? Well, what it would suggest to me is that I have a direct short to ground somewhere. There's probably a broken wire or something and it's touching ground. But, yay, that fuse is good. All right, cool. Now, next order of business on our list of things to check, all right? We checked the circuit breaker, or, you know, fuse in this case, okay? The next thing I want to check is, do I have power at the switch? So as you can see, that's that light blue with a black stripe wire. Well, by George, let me go find that. Now, it turns out that it is the upper wire on the left there is the wire that we're looking at. Now, I'm going to pause for just a second while I grab what we call a back probe pin. Now, we have some of these in a little Altoid dish. It's pretty cool. What are you going to do? I'm going to jab that thing in from behind the connector while the connector is still plugged into the switch. I'm going to jab it in there. And then I'm going to stick my test light in this end of it and see if we have power. Sweet. So, why do we do that? Well, I don't like to take switches or anything loose for that matter if I don't have to. Okay? You know, it'd be like going to the doctors and like, listen, I know we could take an x-ray. I feel like it'd just be easier just to cut your chest open and see what's up in there. Okay? What? No, we're not doing that, bruh. Not doing it. Now, as you can see, there it is, and voila, we've got power there. That's awesome. We've got power at the switch. Okay? Well, that means we got power to the switch, so what do we got? We're just crossing things off the list, babe. Excuse me. We got power at the switch to right here. Okay? Could the switch be bad? It absolutely could be bad. So how would I test that? Well, when I put this in the down position, there should be the power should flow through here and come through onto this side over here. It should work. Let's see. So that is the pink with light green stripe. Let me see if I can find him. You know, God nabbit. I'm going to go get a screwdriver and take that switch off so it's easier to move. Of course, if you just record this right the first time, Mr. Green. Okay, so I'm back. So I probed into the pink light green. Now, some of these wires get a little faded over the years, so you're just kind of like, oh, I hope that's the right one. Now, you're not making good connection here. You see that? Or are we? Wait a minute, Mr. Green. I thought you had to push the button to see if you got power on it. Wait for it. You're still not making good connection. 1 second, please. 1 moment, please. I know what I'm doing. Trust me. I know what I'm doing. Oh, for God's sakes, Jay. All right, here we go. Sorry. Sorry, wrong one. As I say, they're a little faded. Kind of hard to tell which one's supposed to be pink. It just worked a second ago, you hippie. There it goes. What? All right, cool. That means power's making it through the switch in the downward direction. What if I do it to the upward direction? So that'd be pink, light, blue. That was the one I was on last time. Let me come to the other side over here, bro. Over to here. Whatevs. Nice. And let's see if that works. Wait, what? What does that tell me about my switch, friends? Tells me my switch is good. Awesome. So I got power. I've got switch. What else do I absolutely have to have? I gotta have ground, baby. I gotta have ground. Now you're like, wait. Mr. Groom, I feel like these guys alternate between this guy's on the ground side or this guy's on the ground side, right? So I feel like if I were to back probe on both of those wires, and I'm going to show you what I mean by that. Now, by the way, Mr. Groom, do I have to go buy these back probe pins? I mean, it seems expensive. They're not expensive, crackhead. Go on the Amazon. They're like $5 or $7 or something. They're not expensive at all. You can also use that. Wait, that looks like a paper clip. That's because it is, bruh. You can also use paper clips, okay? The nice thing about not using paper clips is these have points on them. It's easier to get in. And if you're tapping into power, this guy is plastic, so it's not going to short out when it lays against a piece of metal. So you have to be careful if you're using a paper clip. This style, you're going to be as careful with. Okay. Yes, again, I will back probe both of these two wires. Now, what would happen, and I'm just going to ask this question rhetorically speaking, if, wait for it, what would happen if Mr. Groom were to take his test light, okay? What if he were to take his test light, oh shoot, I'm going to have to use a paper clip. And what if he were to take that paper clip and hook it, so in other words, hook the two wires that I just back probed momentarily a second ago, what would happen if I were to hook the ground of my test light to one side and the probe end to the other side? What would happen? Well, what should happen is my light bulb should, in theory, light up. Because when I close this switch, darn it, when I move this switch to one or the other position, I should be completing the circuit. Let me show you, okay? So I've got a paper clip plugged into this side, and I've got the back probe to the other side. Watch the light there. What? Hey, what does that tell me? Now it tells me, baby, I got ground. What? So that means I got power. I got ground. Now I'm a little angry, okay? Because, let's be clear, to do this, my window is stuck in the down position right now. Oh no. To get that off, because Mr. Groom has this propane tank that's kind of in the way back here, I'd have to take all these screws off to hold this plate on, and I have to try to screw around and get the thing to come down to get into the motor which lies inside of here. What a pain in the butt. Oh, and it's even better when the window is stuck in the up position, kids, because then a fat guy has to crawl across the seat to get to the back, and then reach down the hole, get it out, whatever. Even if you didn't have a propane tank, it's still hard, okay? Hey. Anywho, and then when you get in there, I 100% guarantee you will have forgotten 2 or 3 tools. You got to crawl your fat butt back out of there. And even when I was a young kid and wasn't as fat as I am now, it wasn't fun. So we are giving it one of these numbers, that it is not the motor, because it definitely could be the motor at this point. All things are looking like that. Now, let me go look at one more diagram here. This is, oh, by the way, this one over here, this is Ford factory diagram. That's what it looked like from the factory. This is what it looks like aftermarket. If you come up here, you can see this coming from circuit breaker 14 and circuit breaker 12, again, as we've said before. Again, if you were at the back of the car using the key, let me show you that. If you're using the key, put it in the hole, which right here, sorry. Wonka, 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 wonk. Yeah, there's a switch lives right behind there. That switch has been dead for years, whatever. And it's part of the harness, so it's a real trial to actually deal with it. Here's our light blue and black wire. Again, when I move these to the down position, it goes blip, blip. Power comes in, wee, down the purple wire, wee, through here, wee, through the motor, back up, wee. And again, this guy's switched over here to ground and then down to ground. Notice that these two guys are hooked to ground on both sides. Same ground, okay? And we know that the switch is good. We know we got power. We know that our fuse is good or whatever. And by the way, at this point, I could also stick the circuit breaker in and see if I have power as well. Because if I have power there, then obviously my circuit breaker is fine, right? The only thing that could be wrong now is either the motor or this tailgate switch. Like, it is open. That is, this contact is open when the tailgate is not latched, okay? Well, what do you mean latched? You mean like unlocked, like if it's laying down flat? Well, yes. A guy would not want very badly to have his window come out when his tailgate's down, right? Like you're playing around some juniors in there pushing some buttons. I can just see Carson or somebody back in the day, or Sadie or somebody like, oh, what does this button do? Nothing apparently. And now your tailgate window sticks out to here. Wait, that's gonna be a lot of weight. Could it just bust right off? Yeah, not good, not good. And so let's close this baby up. Now, what could happen is if, unless this tailgate is shut all the way, if that tailgate is in any way open, and that switch is in the open position, what's going to happen? Okay, well, it's not going to work. So let's see if, in fact, that helped or not. Okay, let's see if we had a problem with our tailgate ajar switch. Oh, praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. How about that? Because, friends, had that not happened, then I would have to be crawling my fat butt. Well, this one was not too bad because it was in the down position when it happened. But I'd take that whole panel off, reach around inside that door, and then probably got to go buy a stupid motor for it. Meanwhile, the inside of my Bronco is getting wet for how many days? Because, don't have a garage. So I have to sit outside, drape a tarp over it. It'll look like, typical St. Helens kind of affair. So, yeah. So, I hope you enjoyed that. Yeah, let's get going on this. I got to upload this now. All right, so I went and found a different circuit, diagram here. So I wanted to do one more thing before I actually got into the windows. Before I actually got to taking the back window apart. So here's that switch we were just looking at. We've decided that we got power, so we're good, which means our fuse is good. Okay. Our switch is good, we know, and our ground is good. We know that. Now notice this one has the two grounds coming together. Okay, so it's really the same ground. Okay, now, so what does that say? Okay, so it says all, so we're good to here. We don't know anything about the rest of the way back. Mr. Green, what does this do for us here? Oh, that's a good question. Now, it says open if the tailgate is not latched. Wait a minute. So if the tailgate is open, okay, would you want your window to go up and down? Because what would happen is if the door was laying down flat, the tailgate, and you ran the window out, it can get so heavy it can actually fall off and break off. Ooh, that's not a good idea. And so what happens is this switch will be open if it's not closed. What would happen if you left the switch, if you didn't get your tailgate slammed shut all the way? I don't know. Let's go find out. Now, this is something that I would want to check, again, before I do anything. Now, notice I took that switch off of that little panel to make it easier for you guys to see. I would have taken this panel off. I would have taken this panel off regardless. I want to get to the back of the switch. But I would not have fooled with the switch like this. I wouldn't take it off of this, except for you guys to see that. So all I've done is use a screwdriver so far. Okay. Now, where is this tailgate lock switch located? Well, it's located, I think it's on this side, but we'll check in a minute here if we get this thing to open. But what I know is this, that if it's not closed all the way, if a fella were to give one of these numbers with the shoulder, that might reset that switch enough that it would work. But I don't know. So let's see what happens here. The key is on. What? And kaboom. What does that tell me? Okay, well, what that tells me is that my tailgate ajar, in essence, switch was not fully seating. And if it's not fully seating, what does that do? Well, it kills everything to the point where we've got a problem. Now, where is that switch located? That's a good question, Mr. Groom. I'm not going to tear into it, but I believe it's in this. I believe it's inside behind this piece here. Or, it's been a while since I've been in there. These screws have to come out. Okay? These screws have to come out. We have to roll the window up. Oh, that's where it is. That's where it is. So it's this handle is attached to rods that go over here to these sides on each side. And it's somewhere to do with, somewhere on that switch is, the switch is somewhere on that rod, as I recall. Now, let's try this again, see if it works again. Now, by the way, you see how fun it would be to try to get in here between the tank and this to try to get this metal piece off? Yeah, it wouldn't be real fun, kids. So that's why, for several reasons, why I'd rather just not make a big god-awful mess and have to fool with things. Oh, I just realized something. I put my new tire on the other day, and I never put my cute little, my little trim ring on. I'll put that on today before I get done. Okay? Alrighty, that'll make it look more prettier. See, it's supposed to look like this. Squirrel! Sorry, I know I got sidetracked. Okay, let's see if that's going to do it for us here. Let's key back on. Let's go ahead and roll that window back up, see if it works. Hey, what do you know? Hot diggity, we fixed it. Again, when you are diagnosing an electrical issue, for gosh sakes, get a friggin' diagram. And by the way, make sure it's the right one. Okay? Make sure it's the right diagram. This is a big deal. Again, this is nice and clickable. You can see where it's going. Whee! Whee! And you can see your circuit right to there. Then it goes to ground, obviously. Now, again, we were not getting power back to the motor, obviously. Again, it could have been a wire. Could have been something knocked off. Oh, Mr. Groom, when you were hit in that collision, have you opened the door, the rear door since then? And the answer is, I think, yeah, once. Once I did, because I had to get the broken tire out of the back. And so I did have it opened, but apparently I didn't shut it hard enough. And so that switch, this tailgate ajar switch, was not actuating. It was in this open position. So guess what? It ain't going to work. All right? All right, so I'm going to go finish this up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put everything back together. And I'm going to put that circuit breaker back in instead of the fuse. Again, the only reason I chose to throw a fuse in real quickly was to see if, in fact, that circuit breaker, even though it tested okay, was not okay. Okay? But I think we're good. I think we're golden, babe. We'll see you later. Thanks for the help. I appreciate it. The moral support, if you will.